would have a part in it. Yet, if all went according to plan, no one would ever know that he had even been in the room. Today he was Saeed Arif, a Moroccan representative from a United States agency. He would leave the Rock under the same alias. It was sad, Yassassin thought, not to be remembered as he deserved for his role in the day that Gibraltar was besieged. Never mind, he thought. His reward was that he had planned the entire operation, and that it was going to succeed. Jimmy Powers glanced for the 5th time at the Gibraltar Chronicle sitting on the table beside him. The headline screamed, "PM to meet Espada today," beneath which was a picture of the Spaniard standing at a podium with a painting of Franco behind him. His fist was raised and he was shouting to the throngs of people who would do anything he ordered. He certainly had something of Franco in him, not to mention the deadly charisma of a Hitler or a Mussolini. Another story on the front page announced, "Spanish mob gather at border. UN to mediate." Gather. That was funny, Powers thought. Ready to erupt would be more accurate. There were a couple of thousand men, armed and dangerous, waiting for the signal to storm across the border between Spain and Gibraltar. The Gibraltar Regiment and the Gibraltar Services Police had lined up a battery of weapons, and were more than willing and ready to take them on, but this was a question of numbers, not strength. With the reinforcements from the UK delayed, the Rock didn't have a chance. They had underestimated the power that Domingo Espada held over his people. More important, they also had no idea that the Union was behind the brilliant plan that would topple the British colony and make them look foolish. This was one time that history would not repeat itself. The most impenetrable fortress in the world was about to be assailed. From the inside. Powers moved his right hand surreptitiously to his waistband and felt the Browning 9mm, waiting for the fateful moment when it would be called into play. According to the plan, he was not supposed to do anything unless something went wrong. If all went according to plan, then he would walk out of the convent alive. If not, well, he would die killing as many people in the room as he could. No one could detect the Spanish 9mm superstar inside Margareta Piel's jacket pocket, for she was unusually adept at moving with grace and poise. After all, she was one of the most accomplished equestrians in Spain. Margareta took stock of the room and what was about to happen in it. She was beginning to have doubts about the Union's choice of an assassin. If her suspicions were correct, then the entire operation was blown. She would have to do what she could to save her own skin and get out of the room alive. Margareta scanned the others' faces and carefully considered who might be a threat when the shooting began. The Spanish Prime Minister and the other politicians from the UK, America, Gibraltar, and other UN representatives posed no danger. The only additional woman in the room was an Arab, dressed traditionally in a caftan and a veil, which hid her face entirely except for a shadowy slit for her eyes. Margareta was confident that she wouldn't be any trouble either. Margareta had to admire Espada, who at 62 looked more like 50. He had made a fortune and won the hearts of the people during a 3-decade bullfighting career. Now a businessman and politician, Espada was a staunch supporter of those who repeatedly called for Gibraltar, that pebble in Spain's shoe, to be ceded back to his country. He hated the British. He had used his considerable power and influence in the Costa del Sol region of Andalusia to bring about what history would someday call a revolution. The government in Madrid didn't like it, but there was not much they could do because of his popularity. Many of his followers called him El Padrino, Godfather. This was appropriate, for Domingo Espada was perhaps the most efficacious racketeer in the Mediterranean area. Margareta turned her attention once again to the killer next to her, her lover, the incongruous Brit, sitting among the group of Spaniards at the table. He certainly had become a different man in the last 3 months. She studied his features, the broad shoulders, and his unbelievably relaxed demeanor. The name James Bond fitted him nicely. It was blunt and masculine, just as he was. But things were not as they seemed. What should she do? She had to speak to the assassin. The gun was warm in the pocket near her breast. She squeezed her legs tightly, forcing waves of pleasure to jolt up through her spine and into her brain. The sudden stimulation brought her focus back to the task at hand. She patted the warm